Okay, so hi everyone and welcome. My name is Diana and I'm an Ukrainian and English teacher. So that's why I would like to present you this topic. And thank you for joining today. We're going to take a look at Ukrainian and English, the sounds, the grammar, the vocabulary, everyday habits of politeness that make each language what it is, because English and Ukrainian is are quite different, even in politeness. This presentation is designed for anyone who teaches or learns English or Ukrainian. So I hope that for everyone it will be useful. Um, Okay, let's see what we'll cover today. Here is our roadmap for today. We'll start by talking about why it's even useful to compare two languages. Then we'll move through the sound system of Ukrainian and English, the grammar differences, things like articles, cases, gender, aspect, and tense. And after that, word order and vocabulary. We'll also spend a few minutes on pragmatics, meaning how politeness works differently in each language, and we'll look at the typical mistakes learners make in both directions. And finally, the last block contains three exercises for all of us. So, why compare the two languages? In linguistics, this approach is called contrastive analysis, comparing two languages systematically so we can predict in advance where learners are likely to struggle. Here is the whole information is written in English and Ukrainian just to make it easier for our students who join the meeting. So you can read what is written here, or I will just explain everything. Um, so it works in two directions. First, positive transfer, where the two languages behave similarly, learning is naturally faster. For example, both Ukrainian and English default to a subject, verb, object, sentence pattern, so that part transfers easily. Second, negative transfer, where the languages differ. Learners often unconsciously apply the rules of their first language to the second one. A Ukrainian speaker dropping a or they in English is a perfect example. And I think that maybe most of you mentoring here our students could face this problem when Ukrainian students just don't use articles in sentences. It's because Ukrainian doesn't have articles, and that's why we have this problem. But once we know where these contrast points are, we can predict errors instead of just reacting to them after they happen. And we can focus our meeting time on exactly the features that actually needed. Both Ukrainian and English are in the European languages, but they split into very different branches a long time ago. Ukrainian belongs to the Slavic branch, specifically the East Slavic group. English belongs to the Germanic branch, the West Germanic group. What that means in practice, Ukrainian is highly inflected. Word endings carry a lot of grammatical meaning. It has free mobile word stress, and every verb carries grammatical aspect. English, by contrast, is analytic. It relies on word order and prepositions rather than endings. Stress is fixed per word, and there is no grammatical aspect category that way the way Ukrainian has it. And because they do share a common ancestor, Proto-Indo-European, a handful of words still echo each other after thousands of years. For example, mother in English and mati in Ukrainian, or brother and brat, knight and nich. So sometimes we can find some words which can be or exactly the same or be different thanks to our common ancestor. Then writing systems. Let's talk about how these languages are actually written. Ukrainian uses the Cyrillic alphabet, 33 letters, and English uses the Latin alphabet, 26 letters. But the bigger difference isn't the letters themselves, but the philosophy behind the spelling. Ukrainian spelling is largely consistent. Most letters map to one sound, so when you know the alphabet, you can read almost anything. English spelling is famously inconsistent. If we think about this OUGH in words like though, through, calf, enough, four completely different sounds from the same four letters. For a Ukrainian learner of English, that means unlearning the instinct that one letter always equals one sound. And for an English learner of Ukrainian, the challenge is really just at the start. They need to learn a new alphabet before they can do anything else, including brand new symbols like yi, which are written here, yi, ye, g, and soft sign and apostrophe. Well, English also has apostrophe, but with a bit another purpose. Okay, let's move on. Vowel sounds. Let's zoom into sounds now, starting with vowels. Ukrainian has just six phonemes: a, e, I, o, u. Each one keeps the same quality no matter where it appears in a word. There are no long short vowel pairs that change meaning, and there are no diphthongs functioning as single sounds. English, depending on the accent, has around 20 vowel sounds, short and long pairs that change meaning. Like these words which are written here, this ship and sheep, which for me is still quite difficult to pronounce correctly when we have this close syllable with letter I, and then when we have long sound E. Just because in Ukrainian we don't have this difference between long and short vowels. Plus, English has eight diphthongs, like the vowel sounds in day, boy, now, and other words. That sheep pair is the classic example teachers use because Ukrainian speakers often can't hear the difference at first. Ukrainian doesn't force that particular distinction. On the flip side, an English speaker learning Ukrainian doesn't have to worry about vowel length or that reduced schwa sound English uses so heavily in unstressed syllables. Ukrainian doesn't have this sound. So usually if you see the letter, which is written here, like a, I, o, u, they're going to be exactly the same in all words if you need to read in Ukrainian. So in Ukrainian, reading is quite easier than in English, just because we don't change the sound depending on the place in a word. Consonants work the same way. Each language has sounds the other simply doesn't have. English has the th sound in think and this and other words, which have no equivalent in Ukrainian at all, plus the w sound, the vowel like a in cat, and aspirated p, t, k sounds at the start of stressed syllables. Because if you see, well, in Ukrainian, we also have this p, t, k, but for us, they're not aspirated. We don't need to add any air while we're pronouncing them. So in Ukrainian, it can be, for example, the word tak, and this t is a bit different than English t, because in English we have to add more air when we say it, and the same is with p and k. Then, next one. Ukrainian, meanwhile, has palatalized or soft consonants, shown with a soft sign or certain vowels, which create a real phonemic contrast that English speakers have to consciously learn to hear and produce. For example, there is a rule that if you have a consonant which stands before letters I, ye, you, ya, or soft sign, this consonant is going to be soft. So it's very important which letter do you see after the consonant, because it can make it soft or hard. Here we have some examples like d, t, and sometimes people who want to learn Ukrainian and they see these soft consonants or hard consonants, for them it's quite difficult because it's possible that in your language there is no this system, but Well, depending on your first language, maybe there is. Okay, and it also has h sound. Ukrainian has h sound, like in the word loch, Scottish word, and the trilled or tapped r, quite different from the English r, because in Ukrainian r has to be stronger than in English, and sometimes maybe for English speakers, it's more difficult to pronounce this sound. And in the same way, for Ukrainian speakers, it's quite difficult to pronounce English sound r, because for us, r has to be strong. And then there is stress. Ukrainian stress is free and mobile. It can actually shift between different forms of the same word, so learners have to memorize it form by form. English stress is fixed when you learn a word, but it's not marked in spelling at all, so it also has to be memorized. And a few pairs like the noun record and the verb record even shift the stress depending on how they're used. So there are some words in English which are written exactly in the same way, but if it's a noun, you have to put the stress on the first syllable, but if it's a verb, it has to be on the second syllable, like present, present, visit, visit, record, record. And sometimes in Ukrainian also stress can change the meaning, but it's not about nouns or verbs. This topic is a big one about articles because Ukrainian doesn't have any articles, and definiteness, whether something is a book or the book, is shown instead through word order, demonstratives like say or toy, or just context. New or known information tends to come later in Ukrainian sentence, and known information comes first. English uses articles an for a first mention or one of a general class, the for something already known or unique, and no article at all for plurals or uncountables used in a general sense. For example, like cats are independent. Here is no article because it's plural. Because Ukrainian never has to make this choice, learners often either drop articles completely or add them where none are needed. And honestly, this is an error that tends to stick around the longest, even at advanced levels. Uh, because even I have these problems. Sometimes I don't know where I need to put an article and where not, even knowing all the rules which I have to know. But anyway, if you don't have this habit from the maybe childhood, it's quite difficult to remember about these articles all the time for us. So it's worth dedicating real ongoing class time or meeting time to it rather than expecting it to resolve on its own, because we can listen to podcasts, watching films, listening to music, and anyway doing the same mistake all the time with articles. Okay, the next one is noun cases and prepositions. This is another major structural difference. Ukrainian marks the grammatical role of a noun who is doing what to whom by changing the noun's ending. There are 7 cases in Ukrainian, which are called nominative, genitive, dative, accusative, instrumental, locative, and vocative. So the word for book, книга, becomes книги, книзі, книгу, книгою, which are written here. You can see that we save the root of the word, but we change the ending depending on the case. And so on, depending on its role in the sentence. English nouns, on the other hand, keep essentially one form. So, for example, the word book, we don't need to change it. We just can make it plural or not, and that's all. Only pronouns still show real case, like I versus me or he versus him, and the main tools English uses instead are word order and prepositions. So English learners of Ukrainian have to learn a whole system of endings, while Ukrainian learners of English have to learn to rely on strict word order and the right preposition instead. And this is exactly why sometimes you can see Ukrainian speakers write things like depend from instead of depend on, because we're just trying to translate a case ending using a preposition, which we don't need to do in English. Okay, Ukrainian nouns each belongs to one of three grammatical genders. It can be masculine, feminine, or neuter. Uh, and that gender isn't just a label, it actually forces agreement throughout the sentence. Adjectives change to match. Великий стіл, which is written here, it's masculine, великий стіл. But if it's feminine, книга, книга is feminine, we need to change also the adjective. So it's not already великий книга, it's велика книга. Or if it's neuter, like the word вікно, which is window, we change it to neuter adjective велике вікно. Even past tense verbs agree in gender in the singular because it's different for female and male in the past. For example, він читав, here it's written він читав versus вона читала. Він it's he, and here we can see читав, and вона читала it's she, and it has a completely different ending. English has none of this. So English doesn't have these cases. In English, there are only nominative and possessive case. And Ukrainian doesn't have this possessive case. So again, they're a bit different here. There is no grammatical gender for nouns or adjectives in English at all. The only place gender shows up is in the third person singular pronouns like he, she, it. So for an English speaker, learning Ukrainian, this is a completely new habit to build. Before you can even choose the right adjective ending or the right past tense verb form, first you have to check the noun's gender. Usually, if the word is finishing with a or ya, it's female. If it's consonant, it can be male. And if it's o, e, it can be neuter. But again, there are a lot of words which can be different from these rules. So sometimes it's possible that you will need to learn them separately if you want to learn Ukrainian. Okay, verb aspect. This next concept is one of the hardest to explain because English doesn't have anything quite like it, and every Ukrainian verb carries what is called aspect. Either it can be imperative for an ongoing or repeated action, or perfective, or imperfective and perfective for a single completed event. And actually, this shows up as a whole separate paired verb, and it's not just a suffix. So, писати, to write, which is written here, to write or to be writing. This is imperfective because we're talking about the process. And you can see here написати, which is perfective, to write and finish when we're focusing on the result. And this choice isn't optional. The way, say, choosing the continuous form is in English, a Ukrainian speaker makes this decision almost every single time they use a verb. English doesn't have a dedicated grammatical slot for this. Instead, similar distinctions get spread out across the sentence aspect system. For example, it can be simple, continuous, perfect, perfect continuous. So I wrote a letter lines up with the Ukrainian perfective past, and I was writing a letter lines up with the imperfective past, because I wrote a letter is talking about the result, and I was writing a letter is talking about the process. Like here we had imperfective about the process and perfective about the result. But it's only a rough match, so the two systems really don't map onto each other here one-to-one, and we have to remember about it when we teach English or Ukrainian or when we learn one of these languages. This slide connects to what we just talked about. Ukrainian has only three tenses. It's past, present, and future. Though the future actually has two forms. It can be a simple perfective future and a compound imperfective future, like буду читати versus прочитаю. They're written here in brackets. What Ukrainian lacks is tense forms it makes up for with aspect. A lot of the nuance that English expresses with something like have been, then the verb plus ing, or had already, is instead carried by aspect choice plus context and time expressions. English has 12 tense aspect combinations, three times like past, present, future, and times four aspects like simple, continuous, perfect, and perfect continuous. Each one is a real, regularly used form. I write, I'm writing, I have written, I have been writing, and so on across all three times. And this is a classic grid, so many ESL courses are built around, and it has no equivalent structure in Ukrainian, which is exactly why, for example, present perfect versus past simple is such a persistent struggle for Ukrainian speaking students, or maybe present simple versus present continuous, because in Ukrainian also sometimes this can be translated exactly the same. So if I want to say I go, or no, not I go, let's say I read or I am reading, in Ukrainian it will be one sentence without any differences. So sometimes it takes a lot of time for Ukrainian students to understand the difference between present simple or present continuous or present perfect with past simple, because in our language we just translate everything like one sentence. Present perfect and past simple would be exactly the same sentence for us. Okay, word order. Because English nouns don't carry case endings, word order itself has to carry grammatical meaning. Ukrainian's case endings do the job instead, which frees up word order to do something else, like signal emphasis. In Ukrainian, the default order is subject, verb, object, but to be honest, any order is grammatically correct. It's just changing what exactly would you like to emphasize in a sentence when you change the words. But thanks to endings, which show who did what to whom, we don't really care about the position of the verb in a sentence. So if we say книгу читає студент, it's written here книгу читає студент, and студент читає книгу, you can see that the order of these words is different. Here we had книгу on the first place, and here книгу is on the last place, and student is also switching from the last to the first, which both mean exactly the same thing. It means that the student reads the book, which can also mean the student is reading a book. That's why we sometimes have these problems with present simple and present continuous. But the word order here just shifts what's being emphasized. So if we say книгу читає студент, so the emphasis here on the word книгу, the book. But if we say студент читає книгу, the emphasis more on the word student, the student. Okay, and in English, subject, verb, object order is required in almost every statement. If we swap it, we can get nonsense or a completely different meaning. For example, if we say книгу читає студент and then we try to translate it to English, it will be like the book reads the student, and it doesn't mean anything at all. So instead, English adds emphasis through stress, cleft sentences like it was the book that, or the passive voice, but never by reordering the words. So maybe when you have meetings with your students, sometimes you can see that the verb order in the sentence is wrong. But it's just because in Ukrainian, you have a lot of freedom when you create a sentence. You can put words in different places. Maybe there are some cases which where when it's better not to do it, but in general, yes. Usually, if you change the position of the word, it's not changing the meaning of the sentence. Also, of course, we have false friends, words that look or sound related but actually mean something completely different. These come up constantly and cause real, sometimes funny miscommunication. For example, the word magazine doesn't mean magazine. It means shop or store. And if you want to translate magazine to Ukrainian, it would be journal. Well, in English, there is also the word journal, which kind of similar to this journal. And then the word list is not a list. It means letter, like mail. And if you want to translate list to Ukrainian, it will be a список or перелік. The word sympathичный, which is similar to sympathetic, but they don't have anything. Um, they're completely different because sympathичный means nice or likable or just good looking person, and sympathetic would be співчутливий if you want to translate it to Ukrainian. And artist. For Ukrainians, artist usually means performer or an actor. And if you want to say an artist or a painter, in Ukrainian it would be художник. Of course, there are not only these false friends, there are more. But, well, it's possible to find everything on the internet if you want to find more of them. Well, not all vocabulary is a trap. Actually, there is also a lot of shared ground, just from a different source that we might expect. Words like telephone, this telephone and telephone, университет, university, информация, information, демократия, democracy. These aren't direct cognates from a shared ancestor. They're what we call internationalisms because both languages separately borrowed them from other languages. It could be Greek or Latin or French. On top of that, contemporary Ukrainian has also borrowed a lot of words directly from English in recent decades, especially in tech and business. So here you can see words like computer, manager, smartphone, marketing, which are similar to English ones because we took them from English, but sometimes the stress can be different. Okay, let's move on. Politeness. Many European languages distinguish between an informal and a formal or plural you. English used to have this too centuries ago, but lost it completely. So Ukrainian keeps it fully alive. Ты is informal singular, which is used for family, close friends, children. But we is formal singular, used to show respect or distance with strangers or authority figures, and it's also the plural you for any group. Choosing the wrong word can sound rude or oddly overtly formal. It's a real constant social decision Ukrainian speakers made. English just has one form, you, for absolutely everyone and everything. So politeness gets expressed differently through maybe word choice, hedging phrases like could you possibly, titles, and tone. This means an English speaker learning Ukrainian has to build an entirely new habit consciously, deciding ты or we every single time, something their own language never once asked of them. So sometimes, well, among maybe young people, it's quite common to call everyone ты, even if it's a person who you see for the first time. But for some people, it can be offensive. So if you are in Ukraine and you have doubts to say ты or вы, it's better to use вы, which is polite. And if the person wants to switch it to ты, usually they tell you about it. But for the first time, it's better to use вы, just not to sound root for someone. Okay, common errors. Let's bring this all together and look at where this contrast actually show up in real student speaking or writing. First, dropping articles. Instead of saying I go to shop, instead of saying I go to the shop or I go to a shop, sometimes you can hear I go to shop without any article because Ukrainian has no article to transfer it in the first place. We just say it without articles all the time, and I don't know, for us it's somehow clear, even if it's certain shop or just something which we heard about for the first time. Second, confusing present perfect and past simple, or maybe present simple and past continuous, or present simple and present continuous, something like you can hear, I have seen him yesterday, which has to be I have seen him without the word yesterday, or I saw him yesterday, because Ukrainian aspect just doesn't map cleanly onto that English distinction, so the two blend together. Third, preposition choice. Literal case influence translations that produce things like depend from instead of depend on. Fourth, word to word order. Ukrainians flexible ordering carried straight into English, which produces sentences that are technically understandable, but sometimes it can sound awkward, maybe. And fifth, overusing continuous forms with dative verbs, something like I am understanding, by analogy with the ongoing imperfective aspect. And again, it's because we don't have a difference between present simple and present continuous. So for us, something what we can say, maybe what I understand now, sometimes we can translate to English like I am understanding, just copying from Ukrainian. But well, one thing which maybe you should talk about with your mentee is these stative and active verbs, because not everyone understands the difference between them. And it has to be explained that some stative verbs like maybe know or understand or believe, they have to be maybe only in simple tenses or in perfect, but not in continuous. And sometimes these verbs can be stative or active, like the word have. When you're talking about possession, it has to be only with a simple or perfect. But if you're talking about some actions like have coffee or have a shower, have breakfast, where it's really an action, it can be in continuous tenses. Sometimes Ukrainian students don't pay attention to that, and it can provoke some mistakes. Okay, now the mirror image, the same underline contrast, just running in the opposite direction. Wrong or missing case endings, it's for people who are English speakers, but they try to learn Ukrainian. So it can be wrong or missing case endings using the nominative form everywhere, because English forms never change for case. For example, before I talked about велика книга or велике вікно, etc., when we need to change the ending of the adjective. And it's very common among people who try to learn Ukrainian that they just keep the same ending for all genders and singular plural, which is not correct in Ukrainian. Then aspect selection, choosing imperfective or perfective essentially by guesswork, since English has no equivalent category to fall back on. The next problem is gender agreement slips, mismatching an adjective or past tense verb ending with announced gender, saying this велика книга instead of велика книга, because велика here is it's male, and we need to use female ending here. Overlay rigid word order, sticking to strict subject verb object and completely missing the emphasis a native speaker would signal by reordering the sentence. And flat, inconsistent use of the and we, because English you never required the choice in the first place. So you just maybe to make it easier, well, I don't think that it's a very difficult topic to choose the or we, but maybe you need to think that if in English you would say sir or madam, or you would say Mr. and Mrs., in Ukrainian it would be вы. But if you just say, I don't know, if you want to call your friend or a family member, it's going to be ты. Okay, so let's pause here and pull out the pattern that's been running underneath everything we've covered here. 1. Meaning gets carried by endings versus by position. Ukrainian leans on case, gender, and aspect endings. English leans on word order, articles, and prepositions. 2. Grammatical categories don't line up one-to-one. Aspect, articles, and the TV distinctions. This TV distinction, for someone who doesn't know, it's when we have to choose the or we, because in some languages we also have these different forms. Okay, so TV distinctions each exist fully in one language and not at all in the other, so they can't just be translated across, they have to be taught as new concepts. 3. Sound systems need active retraining. Vowel length, the TH sound, the W for Ukrainian speakers, and palatalization for English speakers. In Ukrainian, the sound W, which the letter W gives in English, it doesn't exist. So sometimes maybe you can hear that instead of saying a window, a Ukrainian speaker can say window, because we just have sound V, but we don't have W. For us, it's something between V and U. Okay, the next one, the fourth. The errors we just went through aren't random. They are predictable, which means that they deserve some attention, ongoing practice, rather than one-off correction. So when you have a meeting with your mentee and then you hear that there is a problem maybe with articles or with the word order, if you just mention it a couple of times during the meeting, maybe it's not enough just to remember that. So it's better to spend the whole meeting maybe talking about this topic, which you saw was a bit difficult for the student. Okay, well, now we're going to practice. Here are 3 quite simple exercises for everyone. It's for students and for mentors, because some of them for understanding Ukrainian and some of them for understanding English. Let's see. First, we have to spot the full friend. Before, there was a word magazine, and I told you that it's not a magazine in English. Do you remember what is that?
This is a store. Good evening.
Yeah, it's a shop or store, but better if our mentors now can answer because I know that Ukrainian people know what is the meaning of the of the word. The
I
next,
said it, but I didn't have my audio on.
okay, okay. Well, the next one is аккуратный. It wasn't here during our meeting. Oi, one moment. It wasn't here. It doesn't mean accurate. And if you know this word, please tell us if you know the meaning. If you don't know, it's also okay. Then we'll ask our students. So, аккуратный sounds a bit like accurate, right? But, okay, let's ask some of our students. Does anyone want to answer to this question? How to translate accurate to Ukrainian and how to translate аккуратный to English? Okay, Jim wrote neat. Yes, it's neat. So you're right. Аккуратный, it's neat. And how would you translate accurate from English to Ukrainian? Okay, I can tell everyone. So accurate in Ukrainian would be точный, точный, but not аккуратный. Okay, the next word is актуальный. And it's very similar to English actual, but it's not actual. So what do you think it is, if you know? Okay, Irina wrote real, which is a good option. And Richard wrote current, which is also a good option. And how would you translate actual to Ukrainian? Справжній. Yes. Okay, справжній or фактичний also can be. Okay, then we have the word insult. Lex wrote поточний, which is also a good option. Okay, insult, which is not insult in English. What do you think can be insult? It's something related to medicine or health.
Insulin?
Which one?
Insulin?
Well, it's kind of similar, but it's not.
Hmm.
Okay,
How
Anna.
about injection, maybe?
Yeah, it's also a good option, but it's also not. So Irina and Anna wrote the answers that it's a stroke or heart attack. Yeah, so when somebody has a heart attack, we usually call it insult. And in English, the word insult, how it would be in Ukrainian? Okay, Tatiana wrote obraza. Yeah, so when you want to say something bad to another person, you just call it insult. But in Ukrainian, it's completely different, not even close to that meaning. Okay, another one task which is for students. And here I would like to choose one student and one mentor for each sentence just to work together. So does anyone want to try one student and one mentor?
Sure.
Okay, Alexandra wants to try and Adrian. Okay, so we have the first sentence, and Alexandra will need to put missing articles there, an or the, or maybe without article, and Adrian will have to correct, or maybe everything will be right here, and you don't need to correct anything, but to explain why we have to use this article there. So, Alexandra, let's try.
Ну, я зможу пояснити тільки українською мовою. А так,
Без проблем.
I saved the elephant and the zoo yesterday. It was the biggest animal there. The
Окей.
elephant, тому що ми знаємо, ну, саме цього слона ми бачили, це не просто якийсь там абстрактний слон. І
Угу.
так само зоопарк, ну, ми
Окей.
точно знаємо, в якому зоопарку ми були. І the
Окей.
biggest, наскільки я пам'ятаю, то по правилам там, ну, тобто, якби це було, не знаю, the most interesting, тобто ми the, коли найкраще щось там, the best, ми завжди додаємо, що це щось там.
Okay, I will translate everything to Adrian and everyone. So Alexandra chose 3 articles there. I saw the elephant at the zoo yesterday. It was the biggest animal there. And Alexandra explained it like the elephant because it was a concrete elephant which they could see at the zoo because it was a certain place where they could see the elephant, and the biggest because it's superlative form. Is it correct or would you change it?
I was thinking maybe I saw an elephant at the zoo or a zoo,
Mhm.
and it was the biggest animal there.
Okay, and let's discuss why it has to be exactly like this. Why should it be an article instead of the?
It's singular.
So here we have to use I saw an elephant, which Adrian says because it could be any elephant, right? But
Correct.
if we listen to Alexandra and she wants to say about one certain elephant which she saw at the zoo, could it be there here in this case?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay, so it could be, but I think in this case we would need to give some details about this elephant, maybe like I saw the elephant which was eating a banana or something like this. Okay. Well, perfect. Then the next sentence we have she's teacher. Teacher. I had in
Я вибачаюся, можна мені, ну, те, що ви пояснили, там, я не все розумію, просто англійською мовою. Я так розумію, якби це був, ну, далі ми сказали, який це слон, тоді б ми використовували «зе», правильно? А на рахунок зоу, я так зрозуміла, теж вони сказали, що має бути артикль правильно?
Так, тому що це може бути будь-який зоопарк і будь-який слон. А якщо ви
Ну,
давали,
не ексклюзивно, скажімо так.
так, якщо ви додали б якісь деталі стосовно цього міста або тварини, тоді так, це було б де замість неозначеного
Так,
артиклю.
зрозуміло. Дякую.
Okay. The next sentence is about a teacher, and I also need one student and one mentor.
Okay.
Okay, Linda wants to try. Okay, and we need a student.
I want to try. Hello, everybody.
Okay, hello, let's try.
She's a teacher. The teacher I had in school changed my life.
Okay, Linda, is it correct?
It could be, absolutely. She's a teacher. The teacher I had in school changed my life.
Okay, why it has to be exactly like this?
Because in the first sentence we have some random teacher, I guess, and the second one we describe the teacher. Describe and addition, and we give addition details about this person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And,
Yeah, so another person can understand who exactly the teacher who we're talking about. Okay. Okay, the next
It could be the other way around, though, to be honest. You could say, she's the teacher. A teacher I had in school changed my life. If you're talking about two different people, you know the context. If you don't know the context, the other way around would make more sense.
Correct.
Okay.
The way I learned it is if you're talking about one of many, she's a teacher. If you're talking about one particular teacher, she's the teacher.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, the next sentence is about cats and that they're independent animals in general statement. Anna wants to try, and also we need one mentor, please.
Okay.
Bridget.
Okay. Great.
Okay. Anna, can you read the sentence, please?
Yes, cats are independent animals. General statement about cats. My guess is not to use any articles, as it's general statements.
Okay. Bridget, is it correct?
It should be, you can say cats are independent animals and just say it that way, correct?
Is it possible to say the cats are independent animals?
Yes, if you're talking about a specific group of cats or things like that. But generally, I would say something like cats are independent animals and just leave it at that.
Okay. Alexandra wanted to say something.
Я підняла руку, якщо там, ну, четверте можна буде відповідати. Я бачила переді мною, що якось підняла Анна.
Добре, дякую. Well, може ще хтось захоче, якщо ви не проти. And the last sentence here is, can you pass me salt, please? The salt on the table, obviously. And would anyone want to try it except of Alexandra?
Yeah, I'll go.
Okay, Elisa and one student.
І я буду, чи хтось інший?
Зараз, якщо ніхто більше не захоче, то тоді так. Okay. Well, maybe nobody wants. So let's ask Alexandra and Alison will explain.
Can you pass me the salt, please? Because it's, Коротше, це та соль, ми чітко знаємо, яку саме сільничку ми хочемо, щоб нам передали.
Okay. Ellison, is it correct to say, can you pass me the salt, please?
You pass me the salt.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Is it
Can
possible?
you? Yeah.
Is it possible to say without an article or a salt?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. Because you're asking a specific salt on the table,
Yes. Yes.
and because the salt is a uncountable noun.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't say pass me a salt.
Mm-hmm.
You could say pass me some salt.
Yeah, which is also great. And also, if you
Yeah.
put this salt in a different context, that it's possible to say without an article, right? For example, salt.
Yes, you can say we need salt in our diet, or salt is too much salt is bad. No, it doesn't work. Salt can be bad for your health if you have too much. Yeah.
Okay. Rudolf wants to add something.
Of course, generally the sentence looks like you should put the here. But for example, you have the selection between salt and pepper. You could also say, could you pass me salt, please? Without saying, because to distinguish from the pepper, I think that would be a correct sentence also. If you would add an A, that could also make sense, but it's a little bit construed. Then you would have several selections of salt, so to speak. And I want a salt, one of the selection.
Okay. Does anyone want to say?
I don't think that would work actually. Not.
You
It
would have
sounds a
to
bit
say,
strange. Yeah. No, I don't agree with that. Sorry.
In the US, you would only use a salt if there were many shakers of salt on the table in front of you and you did not care which one was passed to you.
Ah, yes, correct.
And the joke is you don't say assault unless you want someone to hit you.
Yeah,
I was thinking the same thing.
Okay. Thank you. Well, and the last exercise here is choosing the right aspect, which can be maybe difficult for mentors to choose, but well, we have some mentors who try to learn Ukrainian, so maybe you can answer. We have the sentence in English. She was writing a letter when the phone rang, and we have to look at the word, well, at the action was writing, and then in Ukrainian we have to choose one word. It's писала or написала. It's related to perfective and imperfective form, which we discussed today. And maybe we can also take one mentor and one student, but in this case, a student will have to explain why it has to be писала or написала. Does anyone want to try?
I'll do number one.
Okay. And also we need a student. Does anyone want to help Ellison just in case? Okay, Oleg. Well, very good. Okay, so Ellison, what would you choose? Писала or написала?
I'd go for Pasala.
Okay.
Because she didn't finish writing the letter. She was interrupted.
Okay.
So this is your classic past continuous with an interruption.
Okay.
Yeah, you're correct. She was distracted during her process of writing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's imperfective form, which usually we can associate in English with ing form. Well, in continuous, it can be present continuous, past continuous, whatever continuous. In Ukrainian, it would be imperfective form, and написала, it's perfective form because it's already finished. Okay, the next sentence is she wrote the letter and sent it, and here again we need to choose писала or написала, and we can ask another mentor and another student.
I'll go ahead and try that one.
Okay.
So it would be написала because it was already written and sent.
Okay. Does anyone want to comment it from students? Well, if not, I can say you are completely right. It's perfective form. Yes, because we have the finished action. Maybe well, as a result, we can see that that she sent it also, not only wrote. Yeah, so you are correct. It's perfective form. The next sentence is every evening he read for an hour, and we again have two forms. It's читав or прочитав. We pay attention to the word read in English, which is in past simple. Does anyone want to try? Okay, if anyone from mentors wants to try, well, no one. Maybe we can ask a student to explain why, well, which word have to be here and why.
I'll try it if nobody else wants to try. But
Okay, let's try.
so it was already done. He read for an hour. It's past tense. Would it be? Is it прочитав?
Okay, прочитав, it would be if in English. Well, here I think it's the most difficult sentence here because прочитав, it's when we have the result of his reading. So maybe if we said in English like he has read 3 books this week or something like this, it would be прочитав, like a completed action which has the result. And here we would say читав, meaning that it was repeated and continuous for some time. This one, I think it's more difficult than previous two sentences. Okay, and the last one, he finally finished the book last night. And again, we have читав or прочитав, but in English, we don't have the word read here. We have finished, but now we are associating it with this one. Does anyone want to try? Читав or прочитав?
Would it be tab?
Прочитав. Yes, because it's a completed action and we have the result. So in this case, it is perfective, not imperfective. Okay, I will stop recording at this moment and then we can ask and answer